WashingTECH.
Since these games typically utilize tokens, even some tokens that were created solely for the game, in essence, creating new economies, sometimes there's a thin line between what is a security and what's not. And like I said, we've seen this issue with cryptocurrency already. So this is just a new flavor of it.
Are you worried about your kids' safety on the internet? We are here to help. WashingTECH's 5-step checklist will take you through the process of protecting your kids. And we'll give you tips on how to set up the best parental controls for your children on their devices. You want what's best for your children. They deserve to be safe online. Our step-by-step guide will help you make sure they are. Download WashingTECH's online safety checklist today to protect your kids online. Find it at protectyourkids.online. That's protectyourkids.online.
Welcome to the Tech Policy Leaders Podcast.
The world's most influential voices keeping you safe and informed online.
Streaming from Washington, D.C., America's tech law and policy epicenter. These are your leaders. This is the podcast.
Tech Policy Leaders with Joe Miller, founder and CEO of WashingTECH.
WashingTECH, safe and informed since 2014.
My guest today is Veda Cruz, an attorney who serves as in-house counsel at Gearbox Entertainment, developer of Borderlands games. She received her law degree and MBA simultaneously at the University of Miami, where she served as president of UM's Intellectual Property Law Society, as well as a venture consultant for entrepreneurs looking to realize their startup ideas. She now resides in Texas, where she enjoys playing games, reading books, practicing martial arts, or riding around town on her motorcycle. Veda Cruz.
Picture this. It was the last year of law school and doing my MBA, and I was torn on what to do, law or business. But then I took an awesome video game law short course, and I was like, I want to work in-house at a video game studio. It really felt like the perfect merger of my studies and my passion for video games. But it was my last semester in school when I had this epiphany, so I was running out of time to network and make connections. Put things into hyperdrive. Was networking on Twitter when someone mentioned that they were giving a talk at GDC. And I was like, what's GDC? It's Game Developers Conference. So I looked up the website and I instantly knew I had to go, hoping to make at least one connection that could help me in my video game law job search. But I was like, how? I'm a broke grad student. I don't have money to buy a $2,000 pass and fly out to San Francisco. How could I attend GDC on a budget? And then I found the CA program. Well, these are the conference associates, and it's basically a carefully curated special program for the event to help it run smoothly and meet other like-minded individuals in the space. And when I scrolled down on the website, all I could do was hop on the waiting list and hope that someone canceled and I was picked. And I'm happy to say I was lucky enough to get a call back saying I was accepted a few days later. When I got to GDC, everyone was telling me to meet, spoiler alert, my current boss, who was also a CA. And just to know, it's not common to find law students or lawyers in the CA program. The bulk of these CAs are game developers. So this was very, very lucky. And then on the last day of GDC, he pulled me aside and he told me, listen, we may be hiring a Gearbox in the near future. So let's talk when you pass the bar. Then I saw him again in a video game bar association event in LA. Couple months later that I also volunteered at. And then fast forward, I passed the bar in September of 2019, reached out to him again on LinkedIn, and one thing led to another. And I got this amazing job where I spend my days handling all the day-to-day legal issues that crop up at Gearbox. You know, like you said, we develop Borderlands, Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, and we also publish games such as Risk of Rain 2 and a bunch of others.
So there's been a lot of talk about a new style of game called Play to Earn, and it's been seen as controversial for its potential policy and legal issues.
Games are basically pretty much video games where the player can play and receive rewards with real world value, like cryptocurrencies or NFTs. From a fundamental level, I think play to earn games defeat the purpose of what a game is and represents. I mean, there is intrinsic value in playing games. There's escapism, there's fantasy, there's fun. But the moment you add a monetary incentive, that play aspect suffers. From a policy perspective, these games are pretty much predicated on a model that will reward those who can get to the top as quick as possible. You know, those who can farm money out of these games and can dedicate every waking moment to it are the ones that will earn the most money from these games. Everyone else who just wants to play the game and earn some money by doing so will not have as much of a fun time playing the game, because those at the top will take resources from those who don't have the time or desire to play these games all day and farm them. You have what's called real money trading and what's been happening for a while in the game industry, which is MMO gold farmers. And they've long been seen as wrong by the game community, and they've often been banned in video games. You know, the EULAs explicitly say no real money trading. And basically, there are humans that might sit at their computer playing these games all day to farm out these resources and then sell them for real world money on secondary marketplaces like eBay or different places. But there is a limit to what a human can do, of course. So in come the bots. And the bots can farm out these resources at a way faster and automated pace than a human can. And I mean, if you have a ton of bots clogging up the servers of a game, what's left for the real and genuine people to play? There's a huge disparity in the economics, a virtual world where those who can farm in-game items at the fastest rate possible, more than is humanly possible, are kind of ruining the experience for the genuine people who just want to play a game to escape the real world for a couple hours or even just a couple minutes. And even for the people who want to make a quick buck and willingly play these play-to-earn games, will quickly find themselves not even able to compete with the bots and the scripts that are running. And they find themselves probably making cents instead of dollars because they just can't humanly compete against the bot. Because I mean, the point of a game, it's never been to make money. This is a very new concept in its infancy. And in my opinion, when you introduce that extrinsic reward, it really does take away from the intrinsic value of the game, the reason why video games are successful and unique.
That's super interesting because I've been playing Duolingo and, I've been getting to the top of the different leagues, but for the top league, which is a Diamond League, I've been learning Italian. For the top league, for the person jumped to like, I don't know if anybody knows about Duolingo, but they have XPs and like in a normal league, if you have 6,000, 7,000 XPs, you're going to win. You're good. But for in this Diamond League, the head now, the person in the number one spot has like 11,000 and there's 3 days left and I have like 2,000.
Oh no.
So now I'm wondering if it's a bot. I can still get into the tournament though. Nice. So as long as I'm in the top 10, but yeah, I'm starting to, kind of process this just after these remarks that you just made. Have you experienced that at all where you're kind of, getting to the top of your own game and you're feeling like you're dealing with a bot and maybe not a real human being?
It's funny you mention that because while bots are certainly a problem, like a non-human player that might be altering the dynamics of the competition, there's also what's called Smurfs in the video game world, which is when a really high skilled player enters into a game as a low-level player, and then they completely stomp the competition and they work their way up. And it's not really fair for like either the newer players or the players that are actually in their level because these are high-skilled players. They're going to make it to the top really quickly. So I think you might be experiencing either a bot or a Smurf. New terminology. No,
that's what I'm a Smurf.
Yeah.
That's the thing. But now my smurfing isn't working anymore.
There you go.
Because in the lower leagues, I would like start in the beginning and not have that high of an XP count. But then I would just be like, yeah, I'm just going to go for it. And then I did it and I knocked it out. So does that make me a smurf or just like a really aggressive player? Because I just feel like my skills, I'm just learning Italian.
You might have been a Smurf in the beginning. Well, no, because if you're just learning Italian, then you probably were never the Smurf. But that person with the 10,000 or 11,000 XP might be a Smurf. You might have to move to Italy to, let's rise to the top. But yeah, 2 new terms.
I'm a little older than you, and the Smurfs, when I was growing up, there were all different kinds of Smurfs, and like Gargamel was the evil Smurf.
Oh my God. Okay.
So maybe I'm not Gargamel. Maybe I'm more like, I don't know, Papa Smurf.
Maybe you're on the Papa Smurf level. You'll get there. I believe in you.
So now, what about? Let's talk more about the legal side. Are there any legal issues with play to earn games that come into play when folks start saying, I don't know, did people complain about this and then Gearbox has to address it? Are there legal issues that you have to address when it comes to this?
Well, I will say Gearbox doesn't currently have any play to earn games, nor am I speaking on their behalf on this podcast. These are my personal opinions. So everything I'm about to say are just legal issues that have come up in the past already. It's in its infancy, so we're going to see even more stuff pop up, but this is what's come up so far. So, for example, a lot of the issues that come up with play to earn games are those that might come up with normal video games that you would normally go to a store and buy for $60 at GameStop or something. You have the evergreen issue of gambling, which has been a widely disputed topic in the games world. Anytime that you're dealing with speculation and real money, and we've seen this in normal video games in the form of loot boxes, there are questions of gambling and fairness. And in a similar vein, there's also the issue of the potential of marketing and security and violating federal law. And especially when you're dealing with crypto, this can definitely come up. Since these games typically utilize tokens, even some tokens that were created solely for the game, in essence, creating new economies, sometimes there's a thin line between what is the security and what's not. And like I said, we've seen this issue with cryptocurrency already. So this is just a new flavor of it. You also have the issue of tax reporting, because the IRS considers cryptocurrencies to be property subject to capital gains tax. And I mean, there's also people who just try to earn a living off of play to earn games. And if this is not regulated in some capacity, then people's livelihoods can be at stake. I mean, you can Google it, you can, go on YouTube and find which games are out there that people are literally trying to make a living off of, and some of the issues that they might encounter. But I mean, the whole reason that we have consumer protection laws is to protect us, to help us. And decentralized games with their own economics, in a way, ignore all the work we've done for hundreds of years, studying these principles of economics and creating laws to regulate the worst of what some people and maybe boss can do. And I mean, like I mentioned before about the whole real money trading problem and the MMO gold farming and the bot farmers, there are provisions in most video game end user license agreements that prohibit this kind of behavior, and for good reason. It's been a long-standing problem that game developers simply do not like. It's sometimes seen as a way of cheating the system, and that's why they bake it into the EULA to, measures to prevent it. I mean, let's also not even get into the money laundering that tends to accompany these kinds of situations. If you just take a look at the news, you'll see money changing hands through video games for nefarious purposes. And granted, this doesn't happen in just in just play to earn games. It also happens in normal games with the use of gift cards or just in-game currencies. And it is a problem in normal video games, and it's exacerbated with play to earn because they magnify and they automate this problem because it happens purposefully. I mean, that's the whole point of playing this game. You're playing it to earn money. And at scale, these problems become even more massive.
So money laundering to achieve what crime?
I mean, it runs the gamut. Sometimes you even have like organized crime syndicates that might be using these games to change hands so that you can't trace it back to the original source. And like I said, they've been doing this in other ways in normal games, where like you'll buy a bunch of gift cards and then, through a whole process, it'll change so many hands that you'll never know who bought it in the first place. So it has become an endemic issue to normal video games. So with play to earn and the fact that it's cryptocurrency, and the whole point of cryptocurrency is to be decentralized, like I said, these problems just can scale really much out of control. And there's already laws in place to help regulate these kinds of things, but it's a big problem because the fact that it is decentralized is trying to get away from these regulations, but these regulations have a place in the video game world and in society. So trying to run away from it through these play to earn games is maybe not the best way to protect consumers.
Policy is global policy. This is the WashingTECH Tech Policy Podcast, serving the world.
So what does the future of play to earn games look like in your view? What should I don't want to, you can't make investment advice, obviously, because you don't want to get in trouble here. But, I'm still not happy with a lot of the VR headsets I've, just not. So what does the future really look like?
Well, I'd say it's bleak in my opinion, because I mean, real quick, a lot of the time these games require an initial investment to buy into the game, and it requires you to continue to spend money to see profit at some point, if not break even. And you need constant new players to keep feeding the economy so that the older investors can make their money. So you not only need a constant stream of new users to keep the game going, I mean, due to the real world financial aspects of it, these are people's real money on the line, but you also need to retain your players. And the thing is, as I mentioned before, these skewed power distributions, like when we were talking about the bots and the Smurfs, means people that are playing the game for the first time will have a rough time against the more powerful players who could have gotten there either legitimately or not legitimately. And that can lead to higher player churn. And player churn is basically people leaving the game. So in my opinion, the system is kind of doomed unless the game is actually fun, unless there is intrinsic value in these games that make people want to keep coming back to it over and over, like in normal games. The money aspect of it might not be driving player retention. And if the only purpose of these play to earn games is to take money out of it, because I mean, if people are coming to these specifically marketed play to earn games to come and earn money, earning the money means that they're going to have to take it out of the ecosystem at some point, because that's the whole point. You're making money not just to keep it in there, you're making money to hopefully one day take it out and it have some value. And when you do that, then the play portion of the game will naturally be compromised. You need to make the game fun and the world fun for people to contribute to it, and it needs to have intrinsic value. And maybe there's ways that we can, regulate it and put some kind of law on it to prohibit this kind of behavior. But as we've seen in the world since the beginning of time, people will always find a loophole, a workaround. So to me, the answer is to bring awareness to this and possibly change the culture surrounding these play to earn games. In my opinion, there's no place for it in the video game world as they currently stand. I think that they're taking up valuable resources that could be better spent creating games that move us, that inspire us, that help us see the world differently and teach us a thing or two about ourselves instead of just using it to make money, which, I mean, we already have jobs for that. To me, playing games shouldn't be about making money. I mean, the play will always come second to the earn when real world money and livelihoods, as these games purport to offer, is involved. So that's why I'd say it's bleak at best.
So what are some resources you think anyone who's interested in this space should check out?
So on the topic of video game law, I always recommend this amazing book that's a wonderful primer into the video game law world. It's called Video Game Law, Everything You Need to Know About Legal and Business Issues in the Game Industry. They do touch on virtual currency in there and some of the issues that were discussed here. So I think it's a great just introduction into the video game law world, especially if you are a law student and you're trying to learn more about the space, but also if you're a lawyer who wants to, lawyer in a different area and you want to learn more about issues specific to video games.
What are some final ideas you'd like to leave with us before we close, Veda? And where can we find you online?
Yeah. So I just want to say that video games have a tremendous power to move and to inspire us, just like other art forms do. And we have a choice to use that power for good and focus on bettering our lives for it. And my hope is that game studios around the world can think critically about what that right choice is. And as for where you can find me online, you can find me on LinkedIn, type in Veda Cruz. I hope there's not too many other Veda Cruzes out there. Or you can follow my book blog on Instagram at Power of Books, where I read and review all kinds of books. And then I think of a video game that you might enjoy based on the book. So it's kind of a merger of two of my passions, which is reading and video games. Same thing on Twitter and Instagram at Vault Hunter Veda. I'm on brand with the Borderlands. So yeah, that's where you can find me.
Veda Cruz, and we'll say the Veda Cruz to avoid any confusion. Associate Counsel at Gearbox Software. Veda, thanks for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
WashingTECH.